Mr. Duray. Mr. Perkins, you have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll come at it another way. As a career public servant, Mr. Nibley, you're aware that the Conflict of Interest Act for public office holders says that the public office holder, particularly a GIC appointment, cannot personally benefit, neither can their family, from that appointment. You're aware of that, right?
Yes, there is this issue of profitability and benefit specifically to the person concerned.
In the Conflict of Interest Act of Parliament, but also the SDTC Act is very clear. It says that board members of SDTC, whether they're GIC or non, cannot personally benefit, neither can their family, from being on that board and the decisions of that board. Is that not correct? You just said that you thought that the Act needed lots of changes, so you must be familiar with the Act.
Oh, I'm not terribly familiar with the Act, and I'm not a lawyer. But what I do know, and first of all, it's not my job
you can't have it
to
both
make
ways.
Assessments on conflict of interest.
In response to
that
Ms.
is
Yip,
the job of the Ethics Commissioner.
In response to Ms. Yip, you said that the Act needed to be revised, and that's a regret of yours. So you must be familiar with it. So I'm not buying.
No, okay.
I'm not buying that you're not familiar with the Act.
I'm responsible for introducing legislation relating to SDTC. So on my to-do list as a deputy minister for maybe 3 years, the SDTC legislation was among my list. But I was never convinced, and I was never advised, that there was significant enough changes required with that Act to actually introduce it to Parliament.
Okay,
the only issue I was
I'll try
aware
another
of
way.
was the membership issue.
By her own admission in this committee, Andre-Lise Matot had 4 companies while you were deputy minister that got funded while she was on the board. She was appointed in 2016. That total of 4 companies is $21 million. Do you believe that whether they go in or out of the room, that a board member who receives $21 million from the foundation she's on the board of, appointed by the government, is a personal benefit to her when the values of those companies go up as a result of that government investment? Is that not a breach of the Act?
Even as a long-standing deputy minister, that is not my role to judge. That is the Ethics Commissioner role to judge.
You have no responsibility for anything that went on, is what you're saying here. That I know nothing. I had an ADM who was my eyes and ears, but he never actually told me anything. That I see that the Act should be revised, but I don't know what it should be revised on now when 5 minutes later you had some ideas of how it should be revised. That when board members 82% of the time are voting for themselves, in contravention of the SDTC Act, which you're responsible to Parliament for as a deputy minister, that you don't believe it was your responsibility to know what was going on there? Who are you covering up for? Why are you saying that it's not your role as a deputy minister to inform the minister when this kind of taxpayer abuse, and I'll remind you that the Auditor General found it to be $390 million. This is not a trivial matter. And you were deputy minister while this was happening.
When I was deputy minister, I received 2 reports that gave SDTC a clean bill of health.
In 2016,
there was no
Andre-Lise Matot's company received,
as far as I knew.
In 2016, Andre-Lise, my time is limited, and he's not answering the question.
I've stopped the clock. I have a point to order.
Chair, I'm not sure how we're expecting answers if we don't let the witness answer the question. And I would be really interested. I think Mr. Perkins is asking some great questions, but I would also really appreciate hearing the answers from the witness as well.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Perkins. I will, Mr. Newby, just this is coming late, and I apologize for that. The time is primarily owned by the members, but the way it works around the committee table, should you be cut off and you have a point to make, frequently and almost always another member will allow time for you to finish your thoughts. So, Mr. Perkins, you have just over a minute left. If you can wrap things up, please.
So in 2016, one of our companies received $12 million. In 2017, another one received $2.5 million from the Green Slush Fund. Another one in 2017, another $2.2 million, and another one in received almost $7 million. So this is a lot of money, and I'm having trouble balancing your statement that you had an ADM there, that you believe it was the job of the ADM, and not every ADM believes in this, to tell you what was going on there, yet you sit here at the committee and tell me that your ADM told you nothing about 82% of the time that these directors were in a conflict. It's just not believable.
Well, what I can tell you is that the expectation that I had on these issues was that STTC, its chair, its board, its executive, managed its conflict of interest issues. They were fundamentally independent, and that was their requirement. In terms of Andrew Noseworthy, his responsibility to me was about performance and policy and alignment. And that was our focus at the time. And
responsibility for $1 billion of taxpayer money that he was sitting and watching these directors funnel to companies $390 million do they own. That you have, the department has no responsibility. I worked in government. I don't believe that for a second that the deputy minister was so detached from what was going on, and that he had a direct report that he asked to tell him what was going on, that person never told you and you never told the minister. It's not believable.
Mr. Perkins, I respect your point of view. I don't agree with it. The one point of clarification I'd make is that when I was deputy minister, the actual allocation to SDTC, which happened in 2007, was $400 million. It was only in 2021 when they received $700 million. So the issues at play when I was there was in fact related to this $400 million, and I was not there for actually all the allocation of that money.
Thank you very much.